morning, students. Last class, we discussed gametogenesis. It is nothing but formation of gametes in gonads. It is of two types: spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Formation and maturation of sperms in testis is called spermatogenesis. Formation and maturation of a female gamete, that is ovum, in ovary is called oogenesis. So we discussed the entire process of spermatogenesis and oogenesis. The spermatogenesis, in which what the spermatids are formed, those which themselves they are transformed into the functional sperms. In the oogenesis, what the end product of that is egg or ovum, that wood egg itself, it is what we are called as the functional egg or the ovum. So at the end of meiosis. So let us study. Today we discussed that is the difference between spermatogenesis and oogenesis now. So already, what is spermatogenesis? You write the first one, that is the process of formation and maturation of sperms in testis. It is called as spermatogenesis. As like here, formation of matured female gamete. Formation of matured female gamete. That is nothing but formation and maturation of that is female gamete. That is what we are called as egg or ovum. So it takes place that is in ovary. It is what we are called as oogenesis. So second one, the spermatogenesis, it is takes place in testis, isn't it? So in the testis, testicular lobule. In that testicular lobule, there is presence of seminiferous tubules. So like here, it takes place in seminiferous tubules. So in the seminiferous tubules, it is lined with the two types of cells, that is Sertoli cells and male sex germ cells. So those male sex germ cells, in which meiosis, they helps to production of formation of sperms. So that's why the spermatogenesis, it takes place in seminiferous tubules. As like here, the oogenesis, it takes place in ovary. So that is by ovarian follicles. Ovarian follicles. In oogenesis, the egg or ovum, it is formed by, that is female gamete mother cells, which are called as oogonia, which are present in the ovary, which are also called as ovarian follicles. So each ovarian follicle or the follicular cells, a single follicular cell which developed as egg in the duration of 28 or 29 days. So that is it in the ovary. So after In the the spermatogenesis, the primary, the single primary spermatocyte produce 4 functional sperms. One primary spermatocyte which produce 4 sperm cells. That is, as we know that the product of meiosis, the products of meiosis is 4, the product of mitosis is only 2. As like after the end of meiosis in primary spermatocytes, they produced 4 functional sperms. But here, the primary oocyte produce only 1 egg or 1 ovum. 1 egg or 1 ovum. So at the end of meiosis here also, production of 4 products, but out of the 4 products, that is only 1 functional egg is formed. The remaining are, that is, polar bodies. So if the 4 products formed, if the first polar body has any certain amount of cytoplasm only, if there is no cytoplasm, the first polar body is not divided, as we discussed previously. But anyhow here, they produced only 1 functional egg. So at the time of oogenesis, there is little bit growth phase is there. Growth phase. So that growth phase, the growth phase in spermatogenesis is limited or short duration. But the growth phase in oogenesis is little bit prolonged nature. It can take little bit long duration in oogenesis. So as in spermatogenesis, at the time of cell division, that is meiotic cell division is equal. The meiotic cell division is equal. So so it is the first meiotic division, it is the second meiotic division. In spermatogenesis, at the time of every cell division is equal. Even mitosis is always equal. But in meiotic cell division, in spermatogenesis, it is equal to 2 cells, means a single primary spermatocyte which produce 2 secondary spermatocytes. These secondary spermatocytes are equal size cells are formed, daughter cells are formed. E cell division ಆಗಿ two equal sized that is secondary spermatocytes are produced. But it is not like that in oogenesis. Even meiotic second cell division is also equal. See here, these spermatids. It is primary spermatocyte produce two secondary spermatocytes. The two secondary spermatocytes after meiotic second cell division, which produce four spermatids. These four spermatids are equal in size, like that meiotic cell division in spermatogenesis is equal. So that is the equal. But in oogenesis, see here, it is the primary oocyte. The primary oocyte which involved in meiotic first cell division, it is unequal cell division. Unequal cell division. So that is a small polar body is formed, a large secondary oocyte is formed. As we discussed in the oogenesis, that is a schematic representation of oogenesis, already we discussed it. So that is meiotic first cell division and meiotic second cell division, both are, that is, unequal. Got it? So both are unequal. So that is here meiotic cell division is unequal. So unequal nature is nothing but one smaller cell, one larger cell is formed. In first meiotic division, the secondary oocyte is larger. Why it is larger means the cytoplasm, nutrient-rich cytoplasm present in the primary oocyte, it is totally entered into secondary oocyte. Absence of cytoplasm, nutrient-rich cytoplasm in polar body. So it is teeny body, small body. That small body, it is called as polar body. So even the second meiotic cell division in secondary oocyte, it is also unequal cell division. It leads to formation of one functional egg. One functional egg. The remaining, that is secondary polar body. That is second polar body. So as like in spermatogenesis, the cell division is equal. Meiotic cell division is equal. In oogenesis, the meiotic cell division is unequal. So after see here, what the spermatids, these are the spermatid. So it is the spermatozoa. Spermatozoa. The four spermatids formed after the end of meiosis in spermatogenesis, themselves they transformed into spermatozoa. That is, spermatids transform themselves into spermatozoa. So it is nothing but the spermatids converted into spermatozoa. For these process, what we are called as spermiogenesis. Spermiogenesis. For those spermiogenesis, there is requiring of certain factors. that factors produced by Sertoli cells. The Sertoli cells, which has the two functions, that is nothing but the Sertoli cells are nutritive cells, which nourish the developmental sperms. Even those Sertoli cells, which are activated by the gonadotrophins, they secrete certain factors, certain chemicals, those factors which are required for transformation of that is spermatids into spermatozoa. Got it? So here in the spermatogenesis, the spermatids themselves avastakave convert agate, spermatozoa agi convert agate. Ondondu spermatid ondondu sperm agi convert agate. Modale ಹೇಳಿದೆ, that is inactive spermatid, non-functional spermatid, non-motile spermatid. It is converted into active spermatozoa, motile spermatozoa, functional metazoa, that is spermatozoa, that is human sperm. That process what we are called as spermiogenesis. In the spermatogenesis, the spermatid themselves they transformed into spermatozoa. But here the wounded itself into a functional egg or ovum. Egg ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಏನು ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಆಗಿದೆಯೋ oogenesis ಅಲ್ಲಿ, it is also what we are called as ooted or ovum. Ooted itself, it is the egg or ovum in oogenesis. So these are the difference between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Got it? Okay. So next we discussed a menstrual cycle. So next menstrual cycle. What is menstrual cycle? The reproductive cycle in female primates. So that is monkey, ape, human. Female primates is called menstrual cycle. The reproductive cycle in female primates. So otherwise, so already we discussed that in first chapter, that is estrous cycle and menstrual cycle. So the cyclical changes which are occurring ovaries and accessory ducts. Ovaries and accessory ducts. That is cycle of events which occurred in those ovaries and accessory ducts, what we are called as that is in primates what we are called as menstrual cycle. the same cyclical events or cyclical changes which occur in ovaries and ducts of non-primates, which are called as oestrus cycle. So otherwise, here the cycle of events starts from one menstruation till the next one. Is called menstrual cycle. So it is also, that is, cycle of events which starts from one menstruation to till the next one. Till the next one is nothing but next menstruation. That is the period between one menstruation to next menstruation. What are the events? It's important which occur in that duration. Totally we call it as that is menstrual cycle. So in menstrual cycle, it starts. Is it in the child stature? Is it in the after the puberty or after maturity? So that is purely after maturity only the menstrual cycle is start. So maybe that is the age of either 11 years, 12 years, 14, 16, like depend upon the development of body also. Depend upon growth of body also. So as that is menstrual cycle starts at puberty. The menstrual cycle starts at puberty is called as menarche. So menarche is nothing but when the menstrual cycle starts after puberty or at puberty, at maturity. So at the time of puberty, there is increase the hormonal changes. The hormonal changes is nothing but there is production of female sex hormones. And also gonadotropins. That is what we are called as GnRH released by hypothalamus, which activate the pituitary gland, that is neurohypophysis of or anterior pituitary gland of pituitary, which produce two gonadotropins, that is LH hormone and FSH hormone. FSH hormone and LH hormone. FSH is nothing but follicle stimulating hormone. FSH is nothing but follicle stimulating hormone. Follicle stimulating hormone. LH is nothing but luteinizing hormone. So these two are gonadotropins which are releasing from pituitary gland. So like these hormones which stimulate the oogonia, that oogonia which developed as follicular stages, primary follicle, secondary follicle, tertiary follicle, Graafian follicle. As the oogonia converted into primary follicle, it is covered with a layer of cells. Name the cells which cover the primary follicle. That is granulosa cells. So these granulosa cells produce female sex hormones called estrogens. Like these hormonal changes occur at the time of puberty. There is starting of a menstrual cycle. Those menstrual cycles starts at puberty, what we are called as that is menarche. So these menstrual cycle which is continuous after puberty, which occur continuously in the duration of that is 28 or 29 days once. So at every 28 days or 29 days, it is the normal duration of menstrual cycle. Normal duration of menstrual cycle. Sometimes in human females, the menstrual cycles which occur after 20 days, after 25 days, or after 30 days, it is little bit varied. So these duration, that is what we are called as that is abnormal menstrual cycle. Abnormal menstrual cycle. Abnormal. So particular duration ತಪ್ಪುತ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. So ಅಂಕದಾಗ ನಾವು abnormal menstrual cycles ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕರೀತೀವಿ. So that is normal duration is only that is 28 or 29 days once the menstrual cycles which are continuously occur. During these menstrual cycle, what are the events? What are the events occur? So there are those events which occur in 4 stages or 4 phases. The events of menstrual cycle which occur in 4 phases. Phases of menstrual cycle. So how many phases? That is 4 important phases of those menstrual cycle. So that is first one is menstrual phase. So it is also called as bleeding phase. Second one is that is follicular phase. Follicular phase, it is also called as proliferative phase. Proliferative phase. Third one is ovulatory phase. Ovulatory phase. Fourth one is luteal phase. So it is also called as secretory phase. Secretory phase. So the events of entire menstrual cycle, which divided into 4 phases. So it is the question maybe asking for 5 marks in theory examinations. Or in the NEET, different types of questions arising in this topic. So what is menstrual phase? Why it is called bleeding phase? As we discussed previously, see here, it is a female reproductive system. As we know already, what are the three layers of uterus? Uterus only, the uterus which covered with three layers, that is outer perimetrium, middle myometrium, inner endometrium. This is the endometrium. At the menstrual phase, it lasts 3 to 5 days. The menstrual phase, it lasts 3 to 5 days. It is the duration of menstrual phase. So normally it ended within 1 to 3 days. But in exceptional conditions, maybe the menstrual cycle, it is ended up to 5 days, it is extended. Because maybe sometime the more blood flow is occurred, so that is why maybe it takes place a little bit 1 or 2 days extra. So that is commonly the menstrual cycle, that is in which first menstrual phase, it is ended 3 to 5 days, during which bleeding of blood. So how the red colored fluid is released from the vaginal portion? See here, it is the endometrium layer. This endometrium layer completely converted into a red colored fluid because of maybe that is a number of blood vessels present in the endometrium is totally shutting down. The endometrium layer, that is the inner layer of this uterine wall, which converted as a red colored fluid, that is endometrium with blood vessels present in those layers, which is completely converted as a fluid which discharged through the vaginal portion, what we are called as, that is bleeding of blood. So that's why it is also called as bleeding phase. So here maybe at least 10 to 50 ml of blood will bleeding at every menstruation phase. 10 to 50 ml of blood which bleeded along with the endometrium layer during menstrual phase. During menstrual phase, bleeding of blood, that is endometrium with its blood vessels completely converted into a red colored fluid, that is what we are called as blood, that discharged through the vagina. So at the time, these complete during these menstrual phase, complete shedding of endometrium. So at the time of after completion of menstrual phase, the uterus covered with here the two layers only. that is only perimetrium and myometrium. Perimetrium and myometrium. After completion of menstrual phase, presence of these two layers, absence of these endometrium irrelevant. Because of that, endometrium is completely shutting down, completely bleeding out. So that's why absence of endometrium after the completion of bleeding phase or menstrual phase. Got it? So that is the menstrual phase. The duration of menstrual phase is 3 to 5 days, during which bleeding of blood, hence it is called bleeding phase. The second one is follicular phase. It is also called as proliferative phase. So here, during the menstrual cycle period, at the time of follicular phase, there is events which occur. These follicular phase, especially which occurred in ovary, the proliferative phase which occurred in uterus. What is follicular phase? So, as already we discussed, see here in the diagram, these are the oogonia. It is the primary follicle. It is the secondary follicle. It is the tertiary follicle. It is the Graafian follicle. So, in the ovary, that is gamete mother cell or oogonia, which developed into primary follicle. It is characterized by it covered with a single layer of granulosa cells. These primary follicle, it developed as secondary follicle. It developed as secondary follicle. See here, it is covered with a layer of granulosa cells. The primary follicle, which is developed as number of cells, illon layer, andre number of granulosa layers are covered the primary follicle. That is what we are called as secondary follicle. The primary follicle developed as secondary follicle. Gamete mother cell developed as primary follicle. The primary follicle developed as secondary follicle. So after the secondary follicle, which developed as tertiary follicle. So these tertiary follicle, which characterized by antrum, that is fluid-filled cavity. The secondary follicle developed as tertiary follicle. The tertiary follicle showing antrum, it is the characteristic nature of tertiary follicle. So after these tertiary follicle, which developed as the matured follicle, that matured follicle which is called as Graafian follicle. The matured follicle is called as Graafian follicle. So these Graafian follicle, which characterized by presence of the secondary oocyte, which covered with certain layers of cells, that is corona radiate and kuda karitillu. It is present around the egg or ovum in future. So even that is, it is outer covered with certain layers of cells in centrally large fluid filled cavity. So there is mature follicle, what we are called as the Graafian follicle. So during follicular phase, it takes place in ovary, in which the ovarian follicle or oogonia or gamete mother cell, which developed as primary follicle, secondary follicle, tertiary follicle and Graafian follicle. So these changes which occurred in follicular phase. So these events which occur in the duration of 6th day to 13th day of menstrual cycle. It is the duration, that is nearly 7 to 8 days. Hence it is called as follicular phase. The follicular phase duration, it starts 6th day, it ends 13th day. That is of either 7 days or 8 days it required. So these follicular phase, it is also called as proliferative phase. So in the ovary, the outer developmental stages nadita ideo ovarian follicles simultaneously in the uterus. Now modle helidivi ovary uterus alli the endometrium layer complete shedding ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ at the end of menstrual phase ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ. So proliferative phase is nothing but reorganize or regeneration or reorganize of endometrium. Reorganize ಮತ್ತೆ ಈ ಎಂಡೋಮೆಟ್ರಿಯಂ ಲೇಯರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಜನರೇಟ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. Regeneration or regenerate the endometrium through proliferation. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೆಳೆಯುತ್ತೆ. Hence it is called as proliferating phase. It is occur in the uterus. Means in proliferating phase there is presence of all these three layers in the uterus. Ekandre endometrium shutting down ಆಗಿತ್ತು first menstrual cycle, that is menstruation phase or bleeding phase. This endometrium once again reorganized during the duration 6th to 13th day of that menstrual cycle. As it is reorganized. So that's why the follicular phase in ovary, the proliferative phase in uterus, which both simultaneously which occur in the same duration, that is 16th day to 13th day of menstrual cycle. Got it? After a end of follicular phase, during which the hormonal changes is occurred, ile hormonal changes ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ in the ovary the follicles are developed, means a oogonia or gamete mother cell stimulated by the follicle stimulating hormone. It is released from the pituitary gland. The LH hormone and FSH hormone released from the pituitary gland. The concentration, the amount of these gonadotropins are increased as well as the amount of estrogen or female sex hormones are also increased because the granulosa layers of primary follicle, number of layers of granulosa in secondary follicle. So those cells which secrete more estrogen hormones, that hormone concentration is day by day is increased. So at the end of these proliferative or follicular phase, 13th day, at the end of these, increase the secretion of LH hormone. Increase the secretion of LH hormone. That is rapid secretion. Rapid secretion of LH hormone. That is, increase the concentration of LH hormone. Increase the secretion of LH hormone, or rapid secretion of LH hormone leads to more concentration, or leads to increase the concentration of LH hormone, helps to ovulation. Helps to ovulation. So how it helps to ovulation? That is, LH hormone helps to rupture of walls of Graafian follicle. Walls of Graafian follicle. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಬಹುದು ನೀವು, ಈ ಗ್ರಾಫಿಯನ್ ಫಾಲಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ವಾಲ್ಸ್, ಈ ವಾಲ್ಸ್ ರಪ್ಚರ್ ಆಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ egg or ovum, it is in the form of secondary oocyte. Rupture the walls of Graafian follicle to release the egg. That is, release of ovum from ovary is called ovulation. So rapid secretion of LH hormone in mid-cycle. Mid-cycle is nothing but, that is the 14th day. In the 14th day, the egg is released. That is, the ovum is released. How it released means, the LH hormone which rupture the walls of Graafian follicle, ಈ ವಾಲ್ಸ್ ನ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಡೌನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು. ಸೊ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಡೌನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು. ಸೊ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಸೆಕೆಂಡರಿ oocyte ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಮಿಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಡಿವಿಷನ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಮಿಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಡಿವಿಷನ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಮಿಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಡಿವಿಷನ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ನಂತರ ಸೆಕೆಂಡರಿ oocyte ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಡಿವಿಷನ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ನಾನು ಮೊದಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದ ಯಾವ್ದೊಂದು ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾವುದು ಮೆಟಾಫೇಸ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್, ಮೆಟಾಫೇಸ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್. ಸೊ ಆ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಕೆಂಡರಿ oocyte ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಫೇಸ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ovulatory phase, it is occur at the day of 14th day of menstrual cycle. 14th day of menstrual cycle. So after releasing egg or ovum from ovary, The next phase what we are called as luteal phase. So luteal phase is nothing but here the remaining part of Graafian follicle ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು part ಉಳಿದಿದೆಯೋ the remaining part of Graafian follicle after releasing of egg or secondary oocyte, it is converted into corpus luteum. It is converted into corpus luteum. So these corpus luteum convert, that is remaining part of Graafian follicle, it is converted into corpus luteum. This corpus luteum which secrete more hormones, that is of progesterone hormone. That progesterone hormone which required for the implantation of fertilized ovum, that is of blastocyst stage. So hence those corpus luteum secrete more hormones, hence it is also called as secretory phase. Secretory phase. These corpus luteum which remain in the ovary, if the egg released, it is fertilized. The releasing egg is fertilized, it is remain in the ovary till the end of pregnancy. If the released egg or ovum is not fertilized, these corpus luteum, it is degenerated in the form of corpus albicans, and it is self-disintegrate in the ovary. Got it? So as after, if the egg is not fertilized, these corpus luteum, it is degenerate in the form of corpus albicans. As once again the menstrual cycle starts after 28 or 29 days. If the menstrual cycle is stopped, it is the indication of pregnancy. If menstrual cycle is stopped, it is the indication of pregnancy. So if the menstrual cycle stops, means it is not continuously, it is not only the pregnancy, in some time in the female who suffer from stress or incomplete growth. In these conditions, maybe sometimes those cycle will stop. Got it? So as at the time of pregnancy, there is no menstruation, there is no starting of menstrual cycles. At the time of pregnancy, complete menstrual cycles are stopped until the end of pregnancy. So like as normally in human females, the menstrual cycle ceases or stops at the age of 50 years. 50 years. It is what we are called as menopause. Menopause is nothing but the menstrual cycles or ceases at the age of 50 years. Maybe in certain females, menstrual cycle stops 48 or other than 54 years. So it is varying. So most in cases at the age of 50 years, the menstrual cycles or ceases, the phenomenon what we are called as menopause. Okay. So as the menstrual cycle, it has those events which occur in 4 phases: menstruation phase, proliferative or follicular phase, ovulatory phase, the last one that is luteal phase. The luteal phase duration 15th day to after 28th or 29th day. It is the duration of luteal phase or secretory phase. Got it? Yes. So next class we discuss the fertilization and implantation. Thank you.